Okay, so in this video, we're going to go back to factoring a trinomial, which we did before, but we did when a was 1. So what happens when a is not 1? Like in this example, 5x squared plus 4x plus 2. So we can't just do this. Okay, this is what we would do. We did x plus, and then we found two numbers that multiplied to give us that and added to give us that. But if I FOIL that back out, x times x is not 5x squared, it's just x squared. And so that isn't going to work this time. So what we want to do is actually do the grouping method that we learned in a previous video where you group, you have 4 terms and you group 2 and group 2 and pull out the greatest common factor. Now, in order to make that work, we have to rewrite this so that it has 4 terms. Okay? Then once I have 4 terms, I can group. How I do that, I'm going to split the middle term. In other words, I'm going to keep the 5x squared and I'm going to keep the plus 2. I'm going to split this into 2 terms that add to give me 4x. 1x and 3x, 2x and 2x. Okay, except this was 11, not 4. Okay, so it's going to split to give me 11x. So is it 1x and 10x, 5x and 6x, 9x and 2x, okay? So in order to figure that out, here's what you need to do. We need 2 numbers that obviously add to give us 11 because they have to add to give us 11. But those 2 numbers multiplied have to give us 5 times 2. They have to give us 10. In other words, anytime you want to split, your 2 numbers have to add to give you the b value. Remember a, b, c. But those 2 numbers have to multiply to give you what a times c would be. So again, in this case, our b is 11, and 5 times 2, our a times c, is 10. So I need 2 numbers that add to give me 11 and multiply to give me 10. You know, if I write the factors of 10 out, I have 1 and 10, 2 and 5. The one that adds to 11 is here. So 1 plus 10 gives me 11, and 1 times 10 gives me 10. So now what I can do is I can really put this either way. I could do 1x and 10x, or you could switch it around and do 10x and 1x. The order that you put them in really doesn't matter. However, we are going to be pulling out a greatest common factor. And I do know 5 and 10 go together, so it does make it a little easier, but at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. So now I'm going to group these. That marker doesn't work. So those are grouped, and these are grouped. Now it's going to go back to what we did quite a while ago, which is, like we talked about, pull out the greatest common factor to factor. Okay, so I'm going to do that with this problem. And I'm going to do it with that problem. So I'm treating it like 2 separate problems. So the greatest common factor of 5x squared and 10x is 5x. So then I divide. 5x squared divided by 5x is x. 10x divided by 5x is 2. Okay, so now I want to do the same thing here. Now you know from our other video of factoring 4 terms that whatever is in the parentheses better be the same. If it's not, I need to start over and figure it out. So the greatest common factor of 1x and 2 is actually 1. Okay, they actually don't have a common factor, so we have to write 1. It's the only common factor there is. So that gives me x plus 2. And just like in that video, the one that is the same, I'll bring down. And then these make my other factor. And again, I could FOIL that out to make sure I get that. But now I have factored this trinomial when a was not 1. Let's do another example. Let's do an example that has some subtraction in it. Okay. Make sure I don't screw up the number this time. So I do want to rewrite this. So I need two terms there in the middle that'll make up the 4x. So remember, I need two terms that are going to add to give me 4, and those same two terms are going to multiply to give me 3 times negative 15. That is a negative 15. If you need to do this to see that, that's fine, but it is negative 15, and so that is negative 45. Okay? Now what I can do here is write out my factors of 45. First is 1 and 45. Okay, so if the 1 is negative, that doesn't add to 4. And if the 45 is negative, also does not add to 4. So that's out. So I move to the next one, which is 3 and 15. If that's negative, does not add to 4. If that's negative, it does not add to 4. So that's out. My next one is 5 and 9. If that's negative, it adds to 4. Now the reason I was putting a negative on one of them is the only way to get a negative when you multiply is one number is negative and one number is positive. So one of the numbers had to be negative. So negative 5 plus 9 gives me positive 4. And negative 5 times positive 9 would give me negative 45. So I found the two numbers. Again, it doesn't matter where I put them. Because this is technically negative 15, I do like to put the negatives together. It makes it a little easier when it comes to pulling out that greatest common factor. So then I'll put 9x here. Again, group these two together, group those two together. And I'm going to pull out the greatest common factor there and do it here. So my greatest common factor here is 3x, which gives me x plus 3. 9x divided by 3x. Here my greatest common factor is negative 5. The negatives will cancel when I divide, so I get x. Negatives cancel when I divide, so I get 3. So my final answer is x plus 3, and then 3x minus 5, or plus negative 5, however you want to write that. Okay, I have one more example to show you, just to really solidify what it is we're doing. Okay, last example. 2x squared minus 13x minus 7. So when I go to rewrite this, I do like to do this for my middle term. It kind of helps me out. So I'll have 2x squared. We're going to split that middle term. Okay, and that's minus 7. So remember that is a negative 7. So this time, I am going to need two numbers that add to give me negative 13 and multiply to give me 2 times negative 7, which is negative 14. Remember, to multiply to get a negative, one of my numbers is positive and one of them is negative. So if I look at the factors, 1 and 14. If I make the 1 negative, that does not equal negative 13. If I make the 14 negative, that will give me negative 14. So I'm done. I've already found it. So 1x, negative 14x. 1 and negative 14. You don't have to fill that in. I just like to. So as I come over here, again, this is a negative 7. So I'm going to put the negative 14 with it. It just does make life easier. And the 1x there. Group those. Group those. My greatest common factor here is x. That's going to leave me with 2x plus 1. Okay? My greatest common factor here is negative 7, and that will leave me with 2x plus 1. Negative divided by negative is a positive 1. And remember, these need to be the same. That leaves me with 2x plus 1 is my first factor, and x minus 7 is my second. And remember, you can always FOIL back out to make sure that you get that for an answer.